This is Beering Ain't Easy. Do you spend all week thinking about what new beer you'll try next? Then yeah, this podcast is for you. Come join us while we try new beers, share our ratings, debate craft beer culture, and in the process, throw a few jabs at ourselves. So crack one if you got one, and turn it up.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Beering Ain't Easy, episode 21 with Adam and Drew.
It is the most wonderful time of the year.
Merry Christmas to all the listeners out there.
Heck yeah. This is a good time of year, man, and it's no better time to drink some beer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I can say that about any time of the year.
So today's episode, it's going to be Christmas themed, so we're going to talk about a lot of different topics, but one of the things we're going to bring back into the mix that we've been shying away from the last couple episodes is some kid stories, some dad-kid stories.
There are two things that we have expertise in. It's drinking beer and telling dad stories.
Yeah, we've been holding a few up just for y'all tonight.
I got some good ones up my sleeve for this episode.
Nice. I've been excited about it too.
All right, so let's cut the nonsense and let's talk beer. Let's talk winter and Christmas beers.
Yeah. What would you say your favorite beers are in the Christmas season?
So I'm going to differentiate Christmas beer versus winter seasonal beer.
Okay.
And so I'm going to start with the winter seasonal beer. So New Belgium makes this beer that they release every year in the winter called Oak Spire.
Oh, yeah. That one's good.
Oh, yeah. So it's a collaboration between New Belgium and Knob Creek. And so it touches a special place in my heart.
It touches you, huh? Do you need counseling?
So New Belgium was like my first love of beer with Fat Tire. And then Knob Creek was my first love of bourbon. And so it's like they've collaborated and made this love fest of
match made in heaven.
It really is. And so it's a strong ale aged in bourbon oak barrels.
Nice. So when you talk about like seasonal beers, the one that I think about the winter season that like brings me way back are Belgians. And the one that really sticks out to me is the one that I drank before I really got into craft beer, and that's Chimay.
Really? I'm surprised to hear you say that.
That spice, the Belgians, that just makes me think of wintertime. The other thing that makes me think of wintertime is like bottle shares. That's like the best time to get with family and you share random drinks together, and like that's just a great time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what about Christmas itself? Do you have a Christmas ale favorite?
Oh, do I? Anchor Brewing Company out of California. And so every year they release a slightly different recipe called Our Special Ale.
Yeah, Anchor Brewing was incredibly popular when I was living in the Bay Area. And they've been making this Christmas ale since like 1975. So these guys are the true OGs before craft beer became all hyped up.
They're always delicious, but always very different. And this year, I stumbled across a treat.
Tell us about that treat.
Okay, so I was looking in the back of my beer fridge, and I found a 2019. We're able to do a side-by-side, and we are bringing that to you today.
I feel like finding an old beer that you really want to drink in your fridge is almost like Christmas on its own. It's like yes, like freaking opening presents back there.
So, on top of that, there is another surprise that I have in store. One of my favorite local Christmas beers is Saint Arnold Christmas Ale.
Yeah, that's a classic.
And when I found the 2019 Anchor beer, right next to it was a Saint Arnold Christmas Ale from last year.
Whoa.
So
it's a double surprise, double trouble.
Double trouble. We're going to do a vertical taste comparison of that beer.
Wow, this is awesome. We're going to be drinking 4 beers, 2 of them, which we talked about from Anchor, 2 different recipes, and 2 from Saint Arnold, one of the OGs of Houston. 2 peas in a pod.
2 peas in a pod, 2 from the same recipe.
So I'm going to open one because I'm just like stuttering all over myself.
Yeah.
Oh. The hell?
Give me the bottle opener.
Here, you open one. That was a son of a bitch to get off. We both almost failed at opening these damn beers today.
So our bottle opening did not go as smooth as normal.
So for every yin, there is a yang. So if we're talking about best Christmas beers, what is your worst Christmas beer that you've ever had?
That is the easiest question anyone has ever asked me. And it is Shiner Christmas Cheer.
Shiner Holiday Cheer?
Whatever. That beer doesn't deserve the respect of me calling it by the proper name.
You know, I've actually got to agree with you for once, 100% on that one.
Oh, God.
That beer is like, just like disgustingly sweet. It's like drinking candied apricots in a bottle.
I remember I was at a party watching a football game, and my buddy brought some beer in a cooler, and so I went and I grabbed one, and I take a drink, and I'm like, oh my God, this beer's fucked up. Like, it must have like gone bad or something. Like, surely you didn't buy this. And like, he's just sitting there like he was on his third, and I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you?
Some people love it, man. And that is not the type of person I like to associate with.
Yeah. So let's transition a little bit away from beer for a little while. And let's talk about the dad Christmas life.
We got to do a spoiler alert. If your kids are listening to our podcast right now, 1, I'm going to call CPS.
Yeah, so most importantly.
And then 2, we're going to have some Santa spoilers here, so you may want to turn it off.
But press play after the kids are put away.
I feel like the top thing on my mind is Elf on the Shelf, because it's like day 17 in Christmas. And I don't know about you, but I'm fucking tired of hiding and decorating and doing all that shit with those elves.
That little bastard. We have about a 50% miss on changing his location.
Yeah. What have you done when you forget? Because it happens to every
it happens. So it depends, like, if the kids were, like, not behaving well, like, I'll associate it with that.
Oh, so you shame your kids for your own failures?
Yeah, only if they've earned
only if
that
they've earned the shaming.
So that's probably about a quarter of the time. The other 3/4 of the time, it's just like Elfie was too tired. He couldn't make it back to the North Pole.
So I feel like there was one time that sticks out of my mind when we forgot to do the elves, and like we got up in the morning, we heard the kids, and Meredith and I looked at each other and we were like, oh shit. And we both ran out there, and one of us, like we were doing hand signals, and we're like, okay, you run your interference with the kids, make them go look in the other room. And then I like grabbed the elves and I like opened up the fridge, and I literally threw those fuckers in the fridge. I was like, oh, I wonder where they are. And they went to go get their milk for breakfast. And then the elves were just like haphazardly in the fridge. It's like, oh, that's such a weird place for them to hang out.
It is so fun how excited the kids get about the elf.
Yeah. That's why we keep doing it.
Oh, I know. So let's talk about Santa for a minute.
Okay.
A lot of parents will like get really badass presents from Santa. And my philosophy is I don't want that bastard getting credit for all the good shit.
So you're saying that you want an ego trip on Christmas?
Yeah, like I want to be appreciated. I want them to know all the hard work. I don't want like all my hard-earned money getting credit. I don't want Santa getting credit for everything I've done.
Santa's like freeloading, using magic to get toys.
Yeah.
And you're off trying to work for a living.
Yeah, like I'm out there grinding, doing everything I can to buy these kids presents. And I'm not having the best presents come from Santa and old poor dad doesn't give me any decent presents.
With me, like I hate clutter. That's just like something that I hate. And Christmas is like stressful for me because you bring in lots of toys, lots of new shit in the house when you already have too much shit. And so like I'm always feeling like we need to be minimalistic with our family, but then it does exactly what you're describing is then like all your extended family and Santa are getting all the good shit. And I'm like the one trying to hold down, yeah. I'm trying to hold to my principles that we don't need more shit in the house. And then I'm the stingy dad.
We have the one in, one out philosophy.
Yeah.
It's like every new present, something's got to go. Like something's got to give.
So Meredith found like the best freaking elf idea the other day. And the idea was you get a basket and you put a little sign and it says, donate some toys to the less fortunate. And then you just leave an empty basket and that's going to compel the kids to actually put their toys in there. So I'm going to try that out next week and I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, we're going to have to give that a shot. Sometimes we just do it and they never even know. It's like, oh yeah, we took that to Goodwill. But we don't ever tell them. It's like, oh, where's so-and-so? It's like, oh, I'm not sure. You better keep looking.
So my kids like have like a memory. And so they'll be like, hey, where's that pink flamingo that I haven't played with in 2 years? And we're like, well, if you didn't play with it, it probably ended up at Goodwill. Yeah. It's like, I'm just going to have to break it to you, kid.
So I got a good Santa story from last year. So my oldest is currently in 2nd grade. She comes home one day and she's like, hey, Zachary told me Santa's not real. And I'm like, oh, did he? Tell me more about this. And she's like, well, yeah, he told me that your parents are Santa and Santa's not real and your parents just give you presents, pretend to be Santa. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to have to break it. Like, surely she's going to ask me, like, is that true? She takes a completely unexpected turn. So she goes, but I know that's not possible. I know you couldn't go to Walmart or Target and get all the presents the night after I go to bed before I wake up.
I think she's just seen what you're capable of. And she's like, yeah, there's no way this dude can put this together.
Yeah. So like, I'm sitting there and like everything in me wanted to ask this question. In your mind, it's more probable that one person flies around to every little kid's house in the entire world and gives them presents than it is that I go to Target and buy presents after you go to bed and have them in place before you wake up.
Isn't it funny, like, the lengths you go to like, keep the magic alive?
Yeah. But as soon as she started the conversation, I was like, this is it. We had a fun ride. It was a good ride, but it's over.
Your head's spinning like, okay, how can I convince her to keep the magic alive for her younger siblings?
Yeah.
But then you can, like, logic them out of anything.
So I do remember, like, growing up, I had a sister that was 18 months older than I. And so every time she found out anything, she told me right away.
Oh, man.
And so I was like 4 when Santa
you figured
was
it out.
dead.
Oh, that sucks. I figured it out on my own, but my sister made it like a really long time without knowing about Santa. Like, she made it to like 3rd grade, I'm pretty sure, which is, I mean, I guess it's not that far-fetched because our kids are in 2nd grade.
It's a different era, though.
Yeah. But like, we were at school and this speaker came and it was kids from 3rd grade to 6th grade. And he was talking. He's like, yeah, y'all are old enough. Y'all know Santa's not real. He like literally said that at a fucking school event. And I'm in 6th grade and I'm like, oh my God, my sister still believes in Santa and she's in this crowd. She's going to be devastated. And I was like, what a dick move. It's like a stand-up comedian. He's like, hey, is this thing on? Y'all know Santa's not real, right?
Just like a kick in the fucking balls.
Sorry, Jenna.
Rest in peace, Jenna.
Hey, she's not dead. Oh, man. So that's some good kid stuff. I feel like the other thing with Christmas that we need to talk about are freaking Christmas parties.
So we're talking Christmas parties. Are we talking work Christmas parties or like neighborhood Christmas parties?
I think let's start with work.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple of work Christmas parties I can talk about.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to take it back to the days when I lived in Baton Rouge. Our plant had a work Christmas party. Different company I worked for, so keep that in mind.
Don't hold it against him.
So I remember, like, my manager just got sloshed, and the HR manager got sloshed. And, like, they were dancing, like, so dirty. They were both single. Like, the HR manager was a fairly attractive lady. She was probably, like, 10 years older than me at the time, so it was, like...
You were looking up to her?
I was looking up to her. As soon as I said, so it was like, I was like... Where am I going to go with this?
I was like, you're treading on some dangerous territory here.
So it just got dirty. And like everyone was like, are y'all seeing them?
So like I'm trying to figure out in this story, like, are you the HR manager or are you the boss in this story that you're trying to play off on someone else? It's my friend at this party that got really drunk.
It made our day.
I'm going to pivot slightly. Like, I'm always looking for silver linings for COVID. And one of the silver linings that I've thought about, like, there's actually two. One of them is there's less coworkers that you have to watch getting way too drunk and you're embarrassed for them. I mean, it's a fact. There's less of that happening this year.
So you don't like that?
It makes me uncomfortable for them because I'm just like, you have to work with them the next week.
I think it's always hilarious, though.
You're looking forward to that?
Yeah, I mean, why else are you going to these work Christmas parties?
You sadistic son of a bitch. So the second positive silver lining is, like, usually when there's a work-related holiday party, I'm always looking for that excuse to where I don't have to go. I'm like, oh yeah, my sitter canceled, or oh, I got the stomach ache. Oh, my wife can't go. You know, COVID. Like, yeah. Now it's like, oh, I'm really not comfortable with groups over 10. Instant freaking excuse.
Instant excuse.
What about like a neighborhood party where someone from work shows up?
Dun dun dun. Now, let me just tell the audience what's going down. Drew used to have his boss's boss live in our neighborhood, and he showed up at one of our buddies' Christmas party. And typically we let loose a little bit, to say the least.
Yeah, a little unhinged.
A little unhinged. And so I think still to this day, Drew's picture in my phone is a picture of his boss's boss with a butterfly tattoo on his forehead.
If you haven't been familiarized with the app that you can create tattoos on somebody, it's called like what? Tattoo You?
Tattoo You?
Yeah. And we were going through a phase there where we put tattoos on each other when we were drinking, and he put one on my boss's boss head. And
and it's still Drew's picture in my phone. And quite frankly, I don't know if it will ever change.
That's awesome.
All right. So I think everyone's getting sick of listening to our bullshit.
Let's bring on those ratings.
All right, Drew. Let's talk about the Anchor, our special ale, first. So just to remind the audience, we did a comparison of the 2019 batch to the 2020 batch.
So these beers are very different. I feel like 2019 was a little sweeter, more brownish in color.
It had a pretty strong plum smell.
You mentioned plum. I felt like there was a lot of that dark fruits, like plums, raisins. Do you have any other highlights from that 2019 you wanted to share?
I got a strong raisin molasses flavor.
which was completely different from that 2020.
The 2020, buckle up.
This is a wild ride for a Christmas ale. I really enjoyed this one, and I thought it was very unique.
I thought it was very different. Going into it, I thought 2019 and 2020 would be almost the same with just like a subtle difference. But they were just two completely different beers. They looked different and they tasted different and they smelled different.
Yeah. So what stood out to me for 2020, it was roastier. I got a little bit of spruce tips, almost that piney flavor to it. But the thing that overwhelming flavor to me was licorice. I really got licorice out of that beer, and it was really interesting.
Like black licorice?
Yeah.
2020 had a spicier smell, kind of almost like a Belgian type of smell. I thought it tasted a lot roastier and a lot maltier. And then I got a hint of citrus, which I was not expecting. I felt like it was kind of a funky beer.
It was. It was really hard to describe it at first. It took a while to get the words out.
So let me ask you, if you have a choice between the two beers, which one are you choosing, and tell me your ratings?
I choose 2020 because it's super interesting. And I actually gave that one a 4.0 versus the 3.75 for the 2019 Anchor. How about you?
I'm going to flip it around on you, and I'm going 2019 was my favorite, and I put that as a 3.75 on tap rating. So I remember these beers being much better than they were. So I'm not sure what's up with that, but I had a 3.75 for 2019, a 3.5 for 2020.
You didn't like that licorice?
I don't like black licorice.
Oh, you want to switch gears over to the Saint Arnold?
I think we need to.
Yeah. So first, the first question I got to ask you is, we drank the same beer. One of them's a year old and one of them is fresh. Can you tell a fucking difference between these two beers?
Absolutely not. I am 100% sure if I did a blind taste test that I would not be able to tell a difference.
Yeah. I got to agree with you there. I tasted both of these and I kept trying to convince myself of different subtleties. I felt like the one that was from 2020 was a little bit hoppier and a little fresher, but ultimately they have the same smell, the same taste. So all we need to do is one rating and one description of taste on this one, I think. Makes it easy.
Yeah, I think so. So I can't help but compare the Anchor beer to the Saint Arnold beer. I got a malty raisin smell. It had a copper light brown color to it. Much, much lighter appearance than both of the Anchor beers. When I took my first sip, the first thing I noticed is it was much sweeter than I was anticipating. Got a good caramel malt. I tasted some hops. So I wasn't really expecting any hop. It wasn't hoppy by any means, but I could definitely tell the hops were there. What do you think, Drew?
I feel like you nailed most of my comments on here. I do think the caramel is something that stood out to me. I do think it's sweeter. I thought it was pretty good. The only thing that I could differentiate between 2019 and 2020 was I feel like the 2019 may have been a little more muted, whereas the 2020 popped a little more, had a little more hop bite to it, like you mentioned, the hops.
What is your rating?
I went with a 3.75. How about you?
Same. So the question that we got to ask is, so if you stacked up all three beers, you're saying Anchor 2020, our special ale is number one. What is number two?
I think I'd actually go with the Saint Arnold as my number two, and then I'd go with the Anchor 2019 as my number three.
I would go Saint Arnold as my number one.
Okay.
Anchor 2019 is my number two. Anchor 2020 is my number three. And I have a dirty secret I need to let out.
Dirty.
I mean, it's not that dirty.
I was like, do tell.
Catch your breath, Jody. It's not that dirty.
She's not listening.
So I rated Anchor's Christmas beer last year at 4.5.
Whoo. Son, You had not started a beer podcast yet.
No, I've stepped up my beer game, and my beer preference has changed drastically.
It's all right. We're all here with you for this beer journey.
I just need support right now.
I feel like I'm in that Christmas spirit right now, and I want to say that this has been a really fucking weird year in 2020 with COVID, and everybody's handled this weird year in different ways. We happened to spend that year by starting a beer podcast
and drinking
way too much beer. But I just want to thank all the listeners for listening to us this year. Really appreciate it.
All right. Well, this has been a friggin' blast. I love talking about dad Christmas stories. Nothing better than drinking some Christmas beers.
This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production in Houston, Texas. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you want to see what we're drinking, our untapped handles are Beering Ain't Easy Adam and Beering Ain't Easy Drew.